Scenario number 1. And! Dam shouts as he runs towards the pistol along with And. However, before he can reach to the spot where the pistol is perched untouched, Anne gets there and grabs the pistol off of the floor. Dam goes up to Anne and grabs the pistol from his hand. Both of their hands are locked as they struggle to take the pistol from each other. Dam and Anne are constantly trying to take the pistol from each other's hands. Dam moves the pistol up. Anne is still holding onto the pistol. Anne puts the pistol in the middle of his and Dam's chest. Suddenly, the pistol fires. Dam and Anne are still and looking at each other while still holding the pistol. Anne looks at Dam's chest. Dam looks down at his chest and sees a hole in his jacket, the hole that is pointed directly against his heart. Dam opens his mouth while slowly looks at Anne's eyes. Dam looks at Anne for a moment. Finally, he falls on the floor on his back, while Anne is frozen for a long time. Suddenly, he looks at Dam lying on the floor. Dam's mouth is still open and his eyes are looking straight at, and while his head is tilted to the right, and his arms are spread out on the floor. Anne looks shocked as he starts wailing loudly, "Ah! Ah! 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 Ha!" Anne looks at Dam's unconscious figure lying on the floor with anger in his eyes as he shouts, "Fuck you! You waste-ass fuck!" Anne aims and shoots at Dam's face. The bullet lands near the left side of Dam's head, while Anne shouts again, "Break my fucking fingers, will you, motherfucker!" Anne aims and shoots at Dam's chest. This time, the bullet lands and makes a hole in the right side of Dam's chest. Anne shouts again, "Fuck you! You fuck!" Anne aims and shoots at Dam's neck. The bullet lands and makes a hole in the upper right side of Dam's neck. Blood starts to appear from the hole when Anne shouts, "Look at you now, drunkie!" Anne aims and shoots at Dam's chest again. The bullet lands at the same spot from the other bullet. Anne goes a little closer to Dam's face, and he is now near the right side of Dam's body. He looks at Dam's unmoving body menacingly and shouts, "Huh? Motherfucker! Fuck you! You cocksucker!" Anne grinds his teeth while aiming and shooting at Dam's face numerous times. The bullets are making a lot of holes in Dam's face. Blood starts appearing from all the holes. Dam's face is unrecognizable by the time the last bullet inside the pistol hits Dam. No bullets are coming out of the pistol, while Anne's is still touching the trigger from the pistol with his left index finger. Anne is still grinding his teeth as he shouts, "Fuck you!" Anne throws the pistol at Dam's face and walks on his chest. Blood is slowly spreading out on the floor from Dam's head. Anne is standing at the kitchen sink. He's looking down at the sink while breathing heavily. He slowly looks up and sees Peterson's right side from his living room from outside the window. Peterson is holding his cell phone in his right ear while looking frightened and nervous. Suddenly, Peterson looks relaxed and calm as he turns to the right and sees Anne looking at him. Peterson's eyebrows shoot up and he quickly closes the curtains from inside of his living room window. Anne looks confused, but soon, suddenly, he sees a police cruiser coming down on the road from the right side of the street. Maybe it's patrolling around the street, he says more to himself, standing in front of the kitchen sink inside that empty apartment that has just Anne and Dam's bloodied body. Anne is looking down when suddenly he hears the voice of a person speaking through the radio. Anne quickly looks up and says, "Can you turn that off?" Anne is sitting at the back seat of a vehicle. In front of Anne's face is partition cage. Behind the cage is police officer in the driver's side. The superior officer responds, "No." Anne insists, "Come on." The superior officer says rather firmly, "I said no." Anne whispers to himself, "Cocksucker asshole." The superior officer gives Anne a dirty look through the rearview mirror. Anne is wearing a yellow jumpsuit and his bottom legs are cuffed up. His right arm is still in a cast and an arm sling stock. Also, the two end fingers of his left hand are in a cast. Anne sighs audibly before looking at his left and inhaling. He then looks up and asks, "How long do I have to be there?" Anne looks back at the superior officer in the rearview mirror as the officer responds, "Till it ends." "How come I couldn't stay at my cell?" Anne questions again. You still have to show some respect to even people you don't like. And also, that guy is still making threats to you. The superior officer responds calmly. God, what a way to waste my Saturday. I'll bet you there's no one there. Anne groans and looks outside the window and sees people cleaning up the streets. The streets are a complete mess, and Anne can't help but ask, the city still looks like shit? Anne looks outside the window again. He quickly sees an older man holding yellow flowers. The older man is standing in the parking lot of Crispy Hotel, and Anne says, Crispy man? What? The superior officer asks, before he quickly looks at the hotel from his left side window. Then, the superior officer asks, What are you, RJ? Outside the Crispy Hotel, the older man is looking at the hotel. The older man is Chuck. He says to himself, I should have never left the room. Chuck is slowly looking down the obituary in a newspaper. Tears start bursting from his eyes. There are a lot of people in the graveyard. They're all standing around a spot near a tombstone. On the tombstone, there is a name, and the name reads, Dam Reach. Inside the graveyard parking lot, a police cruiser is driving in towards the left, towards another police cruiser. Across another police cruiser near the spot, there is a police officer who is next to a much older lady who is also wearing a yellow jumpsuit. The older lady's hands are in handcuffs in front. Potflower says, You don't say? Well, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Mr. Bruntface. The victim officer says, Aha! You're welcome, ma'am. Potflower says haughtily, It's miss, not ma'am. The victim officer turns around and sees the police cruiser parking near the left side of his police cruiser. He says, Wait here, and starts walking towards the spot where the other police cruiser is parked. Potflower is still grumbling when the victim officer is gone, as she says, I'm not ma'am, you ignorant, deformed person. The victim officer is near the police cruiser's driver's side door. The driver's side door's window is rolled down. The superior officer pokes his head out from the driver's side window and asks, How's she? The victim officer turns his head to look back at Potflower before responding, She is still aggressive. The victim officer looks back at the superior officer as the superior officer says, I'll take the miss up. You can go now, if you want. Sure, see you, the victim officer greets him before he walks down to his police cruiser. The superior officer looks at the victim officer going to his vehicle, and he calls out, See you. The superior officer opens the door and gets out of the vehicle. He closes his driver's door and goes at the back towards the back door, near the driver's door, and opens the door for Anne. Anne gets out of the vehicle with both of his feet on the ground when he's standing outside near the door. The superior officer closes his door and starts holding Anne's right shoulder. He calls out to Anne, Come on! Anne and the superior officer are walking together. Anne is having trouble walking, so he says, God, I can't walk in this. This is too hard. The superior officer looks at Anne at his right and asks, How did you get in the vehicle then? Anne looks confused. Anne and the superior officer are standing behind Potflower when the superior officer calls out, Ready to go, miss? Potflower turns around and notices Anne before she calls out, Anton? Potflower puts her hands around the backside Anne's head and starts hugging him. Anne looks uncomfortable as he manages to say, Hi. How are you? Potflower asks, Did you find Flicko? Anne responds, I'm sorry, no. Potflower looks grateful nonetheless, as she says, That's okay. At least you're here, comforting me. Okay, get off of him. The superior officer intervenes, while Potflower is still hugging Anne. The superior officer gets Potflower's hands away from Anne's head and says, Come on. And the superior officer and Potflower are walking together. The superior officer is in the between Anne and Potflower when Anne asks, So, why are you here, Mrs. Potflower? Anne looks at his left, and Mrs. Potflower responds, Oh, I'm here to see my husband. The superior officer butts in and says, She demanded to be here. Potflower is quick to defend herself by saying, I still see my hubby twice at every month. This is my first time doing this. Who are you, policeman? Well, good for you, Anne responds. Someone is coming behind, the superior officer, and Mrs. Potflower. That person is now standing at Anne's right side. Did I miss it? Frank asks. Anne looks up and responds, Frank, what are you doing here? Anne is looking at Frank at his right as Frank responds, I won't miss this for the world. I always hated you, father. Sick bastard. The superior officer looks suspiciously at Frank as Anne speaks up, I don't know, we just got here. Anne turned his head to the left, look at the superior officer before asking, What time does it start? The superior officer curtly responds, 1. Frank says, So, we're 30 minutes late. The superior officer nods his head and says, That's right. Suddenly, and Frank, the superior officer, and Potflower stop speaking. They all see Airdrie on the right side of the tombstone. Airdrie is wearing a black suit and tie. On his right, there is a woman who looks the same age as him. She is also wearing a black dress. In front of Airdrie and the woman, there are two little kids, a boy and girl also wearing black. On Airdrie's left, Sergeant Beck and the other firefighters are standing. They're all wearing black suits. Honda is on the firefighter's right and wearing a black polo shirt, left eye bandaged up. On Honda's right, there are two women, one older and one younger. Anne looks very remorseful when he sees the two women. On the left side of the tombstone, there is a person in the SUV. The person is putting flowers on the grave from his right hand. Next to the SUV person's right, Al Grudge and the other workers are standing. Airdrie notices Anne and gives him a straight look, and is looking back at Airdrie while he's looking at him. Look, it's your mom and sister. What are they doing here? Mrs. Potflower asks. Anne is closing his eyes and slowly looking down. Frank is tapping on Anne's right shoulder as he says, Don't worry, Anne. You'll be a free man soon. The superior officer cocks his eyebrow and asks, Is that so? Frank looks at the superior officer from his left and smiles before saying, I'm a lawyer. I've never lost a case. Anne is still looking down and closing his eyes. Airdrie starts looking at Anne viciously. Suddenly, everyone at the graveyard starts looking at Anne and gives him a dirty look. Potflower looks around and worriedly asks, Why is everyone looking at us? Another person is standing behind Anne and the others. The unknown girl says out loud, Hi, Trix. Or should I say, murderer. Anne opens his eyes and slowly looks straight with a blank expression on his face. Then he grins and turns around.